grew up in a small town in the Philippines where stories of the supernatural were as common as the rice fields that stretched as far as the eye could see. But nothing could have prepared me for the horrors I would encounter at San Juan Elementary School. It all began when I was in the 5th grade. Our school was an old Spanish-era building with crumbling walls and creaking wooden floors. It had an eerie charm, but it was also notorious for being haunted. Students would often swap stories of strange occurrences, like whispers in the wind or ghostly figures in the dark corners of the classrooms. But, as kids often do, I dismissed these tales as mere exaggerations. One rainy afternoon, I was in the library, engrossed in a book about local folklore. The library was a dimly lit room at the back of the school, with shelves of old, dusty tomes that had seen better days. As I read, I suddenly felt a cold draft, even though all the windows were tightly shut. I looked up, and that's when I saw her. A young girl, about my age, stood at the far end of the room. She wore a tattered school uniform and had long, unkempt hair that obscured most of her face. She just stood there, staring at me with empty, hollow eyes. I froze, unable to move or scream. The girl slowly raised her bony finger and pointed at me. I could hear her whispering something, but her voice was barely audible, like a distant echo. Finally, I mustered the courage to run out of the library and back to my classroom, where I tried to explain what had happened. My classmates laughed it off, thinking I was playing a prank. But I knew what I had seen was real. The next day, I decided to investigate further. I went back to the library, determined to confront whatever had scared me. But this time, the room was empty, and the cold draft had disappeared. I searched every nook and cranny, but there was no sign of the ghostly girl. I thought maybe it had all been a product of my imagination, until I found an old yearbook tucked away on one of the shelves. I flipped through the pages, and there, in a class photo from decades ago, was the girl I had seen. Her name was Maria, and she had disappeared mysteriously one rainy afternoon, just like the day I had seen her. The story goes that she had been playing in the rain and never returned home. Her parents searched for her endlessly, but she was never found. I couldn't shake the feeling that Maria's spirit still wandered the halls of San Juan Elementary, trapped in a perpetual state of longing and sadness. Her presence haunted me throughout my years at the school, a constant reminder of the mysteries that lurked in the shadows. To this day, I can't explain what I saw that fateful day in the library, but I know that the ghost of Maria, a lost soul from the past, still haunts San Juan Elementary, waiting for someone to uncover the truth of her disappearance and set her free. Santa Rosa High School was known for its beautiful old building, with its intricate architecture and lush gardens. It was also known for something else, a curse that had plagued the school for generations. I was a senior at Santa Rosa High when I first heard about the curse. The story went that in the early 1900s, a young woman named Isabella had attended the school. She was a brilliant student and had dreams of becoming a doctor. But her dreams were shattered when she fell in love with a fellow student, a young man named Alejandro. Their love was forbidden, as Alejandro's family and Isabella's family were bitter rivals. Despite the odds, they secretly continued their relationship, meeting in the garden behind the school. But their love was discovered, and one fateful night, they were found dead in each other's arms in the garden, their bodies covered in blood. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the community, and the school was forever tainted by the memory of Isabella and Alejandro. It was said that their restless spirits haunted the school, seeking revenge on anyone who dared to fall in love within its walls. I didn't believe in curses or ghosts, so when I started dating a fellow student named Marco, I brushed off the warnings from my friends. We often met in the garden behind the school, just as Isabella and Alejandro had. It was a beautiful spot, with roses in full bloom and a serene pond. It felt like a hidden paradise within the school grounds. One evening, as Marco and I were sitting by the pond, we heard a soft, melodic humming. At first, we thought it was just the wind, but then the humming grew louder and clearer. It was the voice of a woman, singing a hauntingly beautiful song in a language I couldn't understand. We looked around, but there was no one in sight. The humming seemed to be coming from the rose bushes, and as we approached, the air grew icy cold. That's when we saw her, a woman in a tattered white dress, her dark hair cascading over her face. It was Isabella. Terrified, we ran from the garden, leaving our belongings behind. The singing followed us, echoing through the halls of the school. The other students had heard the haunting melody too, and panic spread like wildfire. Rumors of our encounter with Isabella's vengeful spirit spread throughout the school, and we became pariahs. No one wanted to be near us, fearing that the curse would extend to them. We eventually transferred to another school, leaving behind the haunted halls of Santa Rosa High. To this day, I can't explain what happened that night in the garden. Was it a trick of the mind, a shared hallucination, or did we truly encounter the vengeful spirit of Isabella? I may never know for sure, but one thing is certain. The curse of Santa Rosa High continues to haunt my nightmares. Nuestra Señora Academy was a prestigious all-girls school in the heart of the Philippines. It was known for its strict discipline and high academic standards. But beneath its pristine facade lay a dark and chilling secret. I was a curious sophomore when I first heard whispers about the abandoned underground tunnels beneath the school. Legend had it that these tunnels were used during World War II as hiding places for the nuns and students. The stories were filled with tales of desperate whispers in the dark, the sound of children crying, and the ghostly apparitions of nuns who had perished during the war. One evening, fueled by a dare from my friends, I decided to explore the tunnels. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, we descended into the depths of the academy. The air grew cold and musty as we ventured further underground. The tunnels were a labyrinth with countless twists and turns. We stumbled upon old classrooms, still filled with dusty desks and chalkboards covered in eerie scribbles. It was as if time had stood still in this forgotten part of the school. As we continued deeper into the tunnels, we began to hear faint whispers, like distant prayers. The sound sent shivers down our spines, but we pressed on. That's when we found the chapel. The underground chapel was a solemn and haunting sight. The walls were adorned with faded religious paintings, and a massive crucifix hung from the ceiling. But what truly unnerved us was the altar. It was covered in old, decaying dolls, arranged in a macabre fashion. Some had missing limbs, while others had cracked porcelain faces. It was a scene straight out of a nightmare. As we approached the altar, the whispers grew louder, and we realized they were coming from the dolls themselves. They chanted in a language we couldn't understand, their voices rising and falling in an eerie cadence. We couldn't tear our eyes away from the grotesque spectacle. Suddenly, the dolls' eyes turned to us, and they all spoke in unison, their voices a chilling chorus of despair. "Leave this place," they hissed. "Leave before it's too late." Terrified, we fled the chapel and the tunnels, scrambling back to the surface. We never spoke of our horrifying encounter, but the memory haunted us all. Years later, I returned to Nuestra Señora Academy as a teacher. The tunnels had been sealed off, and the chapel had been renovated, but the sense of unease lingered. I couldn't help but wonder what dark secrets lay buried beneath the school, and whether the spirits that had whispered to us that fateful night still roamed the halls, seeking release